All right, welcome back, everybody, to our fifth game session or project that we're going to put together today. It is number 5 on our list, and this game is called Touch the Red. Now, before we begin into one of my favorite projects, we're going to talk a little bit about what it's going to look like, and then we'll go into a little bit of more of the mechanics of coding again, and we'll go back to coding. So, Touch the Red, it's not your conventional game, probably never heard of it. But this is how the game works. Person clicks the green flag, and there's a pink ball on top of a blue ball, and you're trying to hit the pink ball or touch it with the red stick. So the user is the bigger ball, and they're just rotating in a way to get the pink ball to touch the red line. If they don't touch it, the ball will just fly away, and you lose the game. But if you do touch it, you win. That's the general gist of it, but we'll get into details in a bit. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit more about if statements. We're going to do a review of that. We're going to talk about the sensing blocks in coding, algorithms. We'll talk about looks section in coding, as well as customization and how that works. So today's game will use customization of the sprites. So you do want to make sure you understand that part because that's going to be very helpful and useful in today's game. So remember that variables are like a block. They're like a box, and you can put anything in it, and then when you move out to another place, you can open the box and take out whatever you stored in it. So it's something that stores your information and then is reusable somewhere else. We also have coordinates in Scratch. So coordinates are these they're basically points on a graph, points that indicate your location. So coordinates work by having an x-axis, which is your horizontal line, and a y-axis, y reach the sky, that is your vertical line, that is your straight up and down line. And where these two meet is 0, 0. That's the exact center. No matter what kind of surface you're using, whether it be the Scratch output screen or math homework, the very center is always 0, 0. So you want to remember that because we are going to use 0, 0 today. And then all the other points that you can find are based off of this. So you can get the very edge by being at x is equal to 240, y is equal to 0. You could be at the very right bottom corner by being at x is equal to 240, y is equal to negative 180. So remember, all these little areas are numbers all going up. They're going to increment by the same number. And whichever position you choose, you're just going to talk about the number it's at. And finally, last week we talked about forever loops and how they will continue on forever. So that's very essential in the game if you want something to happen from the start to the end of the game. Now, let's get into algorithms. What are algorithms? Algorithms are kind of like, they're basically step-by-step process, right? And what an algorithm in coding means is that you're telling the computer, so when you're coding, you're giving instructions. When you're putting together an algorithm, it's more like a very thought out plan. You're giving it all the necessary steps so that it can successfully function. So in an algorithm, you might have like you'll notice that two of these blocks are the same. Give me 1 second. You'll notice that two of those circles are the same. And that can indicate this is where something starts, and when it comes again, that's where it ends. Now you have a starting position, and the arrows can tell you move to the next part. So when this is done, move to the next part. Your green square might be like, this is the process that's happening. Maybe I'm changing the variable value. Then my next arrow will tell me, okay, so is my variable equal to 10? Maybe it's a decision. And then I will be able to loop back if I find that, oh, variable is not equal to 10. So we change the variable again. Then we check it. Is variable equal to 10? No, it's not. So we're going to loop back. So you have multiple different players in your algorithm, right? You have your start buttons and end buttons. You have your process. You have your decision-making part. And you have your loops. And once they realize, okay, variable is equal to 10, then they will end the program. So it's just a step-by-step process. Now, another way that you can use if statements in algorithms is either by having if something, then do the action, else do something else, or you can just have an if statement by itself, right? So when we're making decisions, like in this hexagon, this yellow hexagon, I could be making the decision if the variable is equal to 10, then do the next thing, which is going to be the red circle. But maybe I want to make it more complicated than that. What if I'm like, if the variable is equal to 10, then end the game, else loop it back, or else maybe I need to change a position on the screen because of that. So there's really anything you can do here, but these are conditions, right? So these can help you send signals and make it a way for you to change part of the game based on the situation. Our next part is going to look at sensing blocks. So in coding, remember the console has many different circles. You have motion and looks. You also have sensing, and sensing can be incredibly helpful. So we're going to be using three specific sensing blocks. Well, we might be using more, but the most important ones will sense interactions with other sprites by comparing colors, coordinates, and distances to objects. So sensing works because it senses the interactions. And how does it feel that, oh, dinosaur 1 has touched dinosaur 2, like in our very first game? It's going to see that by comparing the colors, the coordinates, the distances between the objects. So maybe the coordinates are exactly on top of each other. That means they're touching each other, right? Maybe if we use color is touching color, maybe the blue dinosaur's blue is touching the red of the red dinosaur. That means that they're interacting, that senses something. And it might also look at distance to the object. So we use distance to, I believe it was distance to mouse and distance to mouse pointer. We used both of those in our previous catch the mouse game. So by using distance to, I can plug that in any of, you'll notice that these have like different shapes, right? Like this is a very elongated hexagon, and this is more like an elliptical, like a circle. So you have to make sure that whatever you're putting this into is shaped like a circle. And whatever you put color touching color into is shaped like a very stretchy hexagon, right? And these are all within, they're going to show up for every sprite. So you can be like, if sprite apple, the red part is touching the green part of the other apple, right? And then the other apple might have the same, it's going to have the same functions. So you can double check things, right? So it's very interesting, and we're going to be using this today. So just make sure you understand that color touching color, you can change the colors and see if they're touching each other, or it could just be touching the color by itself, it could just be touching the sprite, or it could be looking at the distance from the sprite. Ask what's your name and wait, and then receive the answer. That is a different kind of block, but it's a very helpful block. Maybe if you want to ask the user, are you ready to play? And then they're going to put in yes, and you're going to see the answer. You're going to store that information as a variable called answer and see what the answer gives you. If answer is equal to yes, play the game. If no, then end the game, right? So this is how you can use it in an if statement situation. But all of these are very important, and we're going to be using mainly the first four for today's game. The next section, as you might recall, is looks. So we got motion. We're really good at events and control now, because that's where our green flag is. That's where our loops are. Now we're looking at looks. Now, the looks section displays specific things that the sprite wants to show that can be written in text. So that can be about what they're thinking, what they're saying. So if I say hello for 2 seconds, I'm going to see Scratch the Cat and the word hello in little comic strip bubbles, right? That's really cool. You can put think, you could put show and hide. Show and hide are very, very important. So maybe in the beginning of my game, I have a sprite ready and it's all perfect, but I don't want them to see the sprite in the beginning of the game. So what am I going to do? I'm going to say when green flag clicked, hide. Don't show this sprite. And then maybe it's like a scare jump game and I just want them to get scared by it or whatever. Then I'm going to uh, put a show block whenever I want them to see it, right? So that's very special and important because it comes in a lot of games. The looks part also changes how the sprite looks. So not only what they want to show, but also how the sprite looks. So if I wanted to switch the costume, if I wanted to change the position of my cat, like make it look like it's walking, I can change the costumes. If I want to switch the backdrop because I'm saying, oh, my cat has gone from this location to another place, I can switch. Oh, oops. I can switch the backdrop. And then there's some really cool effects here as well, like color effects. They also have like a spiral effect. If you click on the arrows, you'll see a lot of effects that you guys can play around with. And then let's say you saw them all and you're like, okay, I want to go back to default. You can use clear graphic effects. And this part is very, very important, especially for today's game, and it can get a little bit complicated. All right, this is the customization part. In customization, you will find well, first of all, I'll tell you how to get there. To get into to customization means that you're able to play around with the way your sprite looks, with the way your backdrop looks, with the way your sound sounds. So if you want to change the way your sprite looks, like let's say we have this sprite, whose name is Gobo, and we want to change the way that it looks. Maybe I want it to look red instead of orange. I'll click on costumes, which is right beside code, and I can change the colors with the buttons fill and outline. So this is fill, and this is outline. So in fill, I can change the hue, the saturation, and the brightness. So maybe I want a specific kind of red or orange, and then I can vary the degree of saturation and then vary the brightness to work with that, okay? So if you want to change, and we're going to use changing the color for the sprite in our code. So just make sure you understand that you click on costumes, you click on fill, and you can change the color. But remember, just because Gobo's insides are yellow, you can still see a black outline. And say you want to keep that black outline, you can leave it as it is. If you want to make it a blue outline, you just click on the outline button. It's going to show you very similar things, and you're just going to click on the blue section, and that'll work. But now let's say we want to make the outlines thicker, or we want to make the outlines thicker. We want to make it more visible, more fatter, like the lines around Gobo. That's where this is very important. There's this little elliptical here that has a number in it. The bigger the number, the thicker the outline is going to be. The smaller the number, the thinner the outline is going to be. So if you want it to be very, very clear that Gobo has a black outline, then you can put like 10 or 11 in that place. So we are going to be doing that. So I hope you caught that. If you didn't, that's okay. We will go back to it. And just a quick reminder that you have all your commands on this side. By dragging your blocks here, you can create the process, right? And then they will output on the screen. This is kind of in itself an algorithm as well. So let's get started. Everybody, you can go on to your Scratch accounts. If you haven't made an account yet, click Join Scratch. If you have, sign in and click Create. And I'm going to do exactly that as well. All right, so we have, I hope you guys are ready with your Scratch Create buttons. And we are going to get started. So in the game Touch the Red, right, we have two balls, we have two distinct colors of the balls, and we can see that they're rolling around. That's kind of like a very, very vague. That's the gist of it, right? So we don't need a cat. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the trash can above our sprite, and we're going to remove the sprite. Now what we do need is two balls. So we're going to click on this cat button here that says choose a sprite. Or you don't click on the cat, you just hover over it and then you click on the magnifying glass. Once you click the magnifying glass, you're going to scroll down. Actually, you don't need to. Scroll down, you'll just find the balls already there for you. If you don't want to use a ball, you could use baseball and basketball, but I would say using a clear, solid color ball is going to be the most effective for this game. So I've clicked the ball, but it's like way much more smaller than the ball in our example, and it's not going to work because it's too small. So again, this is where we're bringing our customization piece in. We're going to click on costumes. Right beside the code tab, there is a costumes tab up here. And now we can work with, maybe you guys don't want the yellow colored ball. Maybe you want a blue ball. Maybe you want a pink ball or a green ball. So again, whatever ball you want, you can erase the balls that you don't want until you're left with the ball that you do want. I'm going to keep whatever this ball is. And now I'm going to click on my ball. What I want to do is make it bigger. There's multiple ways I can do this, and I'm going to use both. So I can either stretch this ball out and then make sure I center it, right? That's very important. When you click on this little plus sign on the ball, you'll notice that it's going to open this kind of compass-like symbol, and you want it to lock in there because that's the center of your customization page, which will make it centered on this page. So you can stretch that out and make it bigger and align it to the center. But I mean, that really didn't make it super duper big. So we'll click on size here. This is a little elliptical beside the word size. Elliptical means like circle, basically. And instead of 100, we can write 150. Damn, it's bigger. But it's not as big as I wanted. So let's try making it 250. Nope, not yet. Let's make it 350. Whoa, there we go. That's a huge ball. It might be too huge, actually. But we'll keep it. Actually, we want to keep it. We'll make it 325. Yeah, nice and small. And it's like medium size, okay? So my size is 325. You can make it bigger or smaller if you like, but don't make it bigger than 350 because we do want to fit in another ball here. So we need to have enough space. And we also need to make sure it rotates. Right? So we're the next part of the game. So yeah, if you don't like the color that you chose, you can obviously click fill and you can change it around. You'll notice that in these circles, they kind of have an effect, right? Certain parts are lighter than the other areas, and it's kind of supposed to make it look like a real ball because when light hits an object, you'll have one area that's brighter and the other opposite area that's more shaded. So if you would like, you can keep it. If you want to remove it, you can make it solid and make it a certain solid color. And now I just have a circle. So it doesn't look like a ball anymore, but if you want to make it look like a ball, you want to continue with that, you can always go back to having this button and it should work. It should click on the circle, click on the effect that you want, and it will do that for you. I actually like the way this looks, so I'm going to keep it. I don't know, I feel like calling it a fireball for some reason. Anyhow, there is one last actually there's two important things left to do. When we click on this circle, we want to click on the outline button and make it super duper dark. We want to make it black. We're going to make it a solid black color. You can make it a different color, but black has the easiest numbers to remember. 0 color, 0 saturation, 0 brightness. So we can remember that. We're going to make it completely black outlined. But you can tell it's there, but I need it to be really thick. And you'll see why in a little bit. It's going to be really important for sensing. So if I make it 10 up here right beside the outline, if I make it 10, I have to click this and then click 10. Oh, wow. Okay, so that is huge. That is really thick. So 10 might be a little overkill, but we can make it smaller always. So click on the circle and then you can work your way down and look at the final effect, right? Because that's what they're going to see that's what you're going to see when you play the game. I think a 4 will look pleasant and very thick and bold. So that's good. Now that we have our ball, we have a thick outer layer, you have whatever color you want inside. Let's work on creating the red line. So that's why the game is called Touch the Red, because it's a red line. Of course, you don't have to keep it red. I'm going to click on this line tool. So this whole time we were on the select tool. We have under that the paint tool, we have an erase. Yeah, we have an eraser. We have a fill tool, we have a text tool, a circle tool, a square tool. We need the line tool that is right under the fill tool. So it's 3 blocks down the select tool. And once I click that, you want to make it a very straight line, right? So you want to make it go from like a centimeter in from the circle to a centimeter out. And it's very thick, so we'll fix that. What you do want to work on is making sure that this is a straight line. So as you can tell, mine's a little bit on an angle. You can do, hopefully, is touch the very, very edge of it. Hopefully. Yeah, okay, so you just have to like make it super, so as you can see, it's going to move, it's going to move more like this, which is weird. So we're just going to like try to keep it centered like that. Okay. I think that's pretty centered. The circles, as you can see, are like on top of each other, which means it's like straight. One final thing I want to do though is make sure it's centered in my circle, because my circle itself kind of looks like it's on one side. So we're just going to pick it up and move it over. If that's the coordinate, that's the center compass, then we just want to make it right under that. Yeah, and that looks much better. Now you will notice that we're going to have a portion of it inside the circle and a portion of it outside the circle. And that's the way I like the design. If you want to make it completely stick out, go ahead. If you want to make it closer in, go ahead. If you move the stick closer in, the game becomes harder. And if you make it further out, the game becomes easier. So I'm just going to make it medium. I'm going to keep it in the center, maybe even a little more on the harder side. And there we go. Now we click on outline, we have to make it a completely different color. Now, this color needs to be completely different from your ball, from your ball's outline, from any of this fancy effects you have. It has to be completely different so that it becomes easier for the computer to like sense it, right? So on this page, I don't have the color like green, so I'm going to make it a bright, bright green. Ta-da! Okay, so this is my final product. And I feel like I should make it slightly smaller. All right, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so this is your final. Essentially, it was like the blue ball in our exemplary game, in our Giphy, but this is one of your sprites completely finished. So now we can click on code and get into the coding aspect. What we're going to do is we're going to grab in events the most important block of code, which is when green flag clicked, because this turns on your game. So when green flag clicked, what should happen? So when you're creating, like there's going to be multiple sprites on your game, then it's usually pretty helpful to state the coordinates and the direction of that ball at the very beginning, right? These are all like the location and things like that. So that helps the game stay at a specific default every time it starts. And remember in coordinates when I was talking about 0, 0? Well, now it's time to use 0, 0. So we're going to click on the fifth block in the motion section that says go to blank blank. And we're going to make it go to 0, 0, the very center of my screen. Let's click on the green flag and slightly moved up. That is the very center of the game. Now, the way that this is pointing, I wanted to start like that every single time. When you have like a ball without the green line, you actually can't tell if it's in a certain direction. But if this is but if I want this to be my default direction, I have a stick to show me that. I don't want the stick to start up here. I don't want the stick to start up here. I want it to start facing the way that it's facing right now. So that's in the direction part. You'll notice that it says direction 90 degrees down here, which is like a right angle. So what we're going to do in motions is we're going to scroll down and find the point in direction 90 button. When green flag clicked, it should always be like this. If I made it 45, then the game will start like this. And I don't want that because that could make it easier for somebody. So I always want it to start facing down. Awesome. Now that we figured out, the game starts, these are the basic things that it should always be on, let's get into the mechanics, the movement of my ball. So whenever somebody is playing this game, they're going to be using their arrow keys to turn right and left, and that's going to rotate the ball towards right and left. So let's work on that. We are going to grab in control. Now, okay, never mind. We're going to grab in events the space key press button. So we have one space key pressed, then you click on the arrow, we have other options. So you have up arrow, down arrow, right arrow, left arrow, any, and then it has all the symbols on the keyboard. So we're going to go with right arrow and left arrow. If you want to make your game more funky, you can use whatever key presses you want. So when I have the right arrow pressed, I want it to turn this way. Like I want it to turn counterclockwise. So we're going to go to motions and we're going to grab turn counterclockwise direction 15 degrees. And then when I have my left arrow, I want it to turn the other way, 15 degrees. Let's see how that works. That's a little choppy, that's okay. But when I'm clicking on the right arrow, I'm going up like this. When I'm clicking on the left, I'm going up like this. Right? And you can see which one's highlighting in my code as well. Excellent, so this works perfectly. There is one very important thing, though, that I need to put in here, and that is a variable. It's not a points variable. It's not a score variable. It's something else. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to grab in the button variables, and we're going to click make a variable. The variable is going to be called roll. And yeah, it's check marked for all sprites. We don't have to click cloud variable. Some of you might not have that option yet anyway, so that's okay. And we're going to click OK. What I want roll to do is to kind of make sure that, yes, we're turning 15 degrees this and that way, but it's kind of proportionate. We're always going to know how much of the roll factor is by. And it'll make sense when we create our second sprite because the second sprite is going to turn by the amount of roll that there is, right? So we're going to grab set roll to 0, and we're going to put it right under when green flag clicked. Every time the game starts, roll should be 0. All right? Now, when right arrow is pressed, we want to make sure that we have roll changing to a certain number, and then when the left arrow is pressed, roll changing to the opposite of that certain number. So we're going to grab change my variable, and instead of having my variable, we're going to have change roll by. It says 1, we're going to remove 1 to 2. So when we're clicking right, let's see what happens. Change roll by 2, and I can see roll is 12, 14, 16, 18. When I click on the left arrow, nothing happens. I haven't coded that yet. In my left arrow, I want to click change my variable by 1 and make it change roll by -2. Again, we're going in opposite directions. So we want the incrementations to be oppositely as well. All right? So I click the green flag and I click on the left arrow. I'm in -6, -8, -10, 12, and the right arrow will make it move positively, right? And you'll see why this is special in our next sprite that we're going to make right now. So this is all the code that you need for the red ball, or our big ball. We're now going to create the sprites for the one sprite that is the smaller ball. So we're going to click on choose a sprite, and we're going to click on the magnifying glass. And again, very similar to what we just did, we're going to click on the same ball. And this ball is tinier which is how we like it, and we're going to click on costumes. So smaller ball, again, if you would like it to be yellow, you can keep it yellow. If you want it to be blue, you can keep it blue, and trash out all the other options that you have. So I'm going to keep the blue ball, but you'll notice that this blue ball doesn't have an outline. Now, my outline needs to be the exact same color as my other ball's outline. And this is why we made it a thick black 000. So we're going to click on the ball, we're going to click on outline, and we're going to scroll or use the scale and make it 0, 0, 0. So we have a completely black outline. But I can barely see that outline, so we're going to make it like a 4. And click on the ball, click on 4, and let's see. Is that thick enough? I would say for the small ball, excuse me, that the 4 is good, but we can make it slightly bigger as well. It's not changing, so let's click it. There we go. I like that. I like 8 because it makes it look very perfectly spherical, very nicely rounded. So now when I click my right and left though, my ball's turning, my other ball's not doing anything, and it's not sensing that the stick just touched it. Well, this game is not complete yet, obviously, but for the small ball, that is pretty much all the changes that we need to make. So we can click on the Code tab and begin coding for the blue ball. Let's click on Events, and obviously the most important thing that we need to have is when green flag clicked. Once the green flag is clicked, we're going to set up the location as well as the instead of setting up the direction that it's pointing at, we're going to set up the rotation style, right? Because some things can rotate left to right and some will rotate all around. And because this is a ball, we're going to make it rotate all around. I will show you what that means when I use the block. So when green flag clicked, let's first work on the coordinates. We have here coordinate -5, 141, because that's where this is right now. And frankly, I don't mind that. I want to keep it like that whenever the game starts. If you want to be more specific, you can make x equal to 0, and then y is equal to 140, and that would make it move slightly over to the center, and that works as well. I was talking about rotation styles. So basically, point towards something, already used that. Set rotation style, you'll find that there's left to right, don't rotate at all, or go all around. Now, this is the ball, so it should rotate all around 360 degrees. So we're going to have set rotation style all around. All right. Having this set up now, we can start creating the environment of the game. So if you ever noticed in a game like Space Invaders or really any game, they have their own environment set up. They have like certain effects of gravity, certain effects of repulsion, and different things. So what I'm trying to get at here is that in our game, we have gravity, and gravity is going to affect this ball and the way it moves. So that is why we're going to create the effects of gravity. The effects of gravity in our game essentially is that it's always moving down because that's what gravity does. Gravity pulls things to the center of the earth. So, and because this happens constantly, I can't just change the y value by -10, because remember y is up and down. So I can't just make it -10 once, because that's it. The game's just going to do that. I wanted to change it the entire time to make it look like it's forever falling down. But doing that, you're probably going to be like, my ball just went through the other ball and it's at the bottom of the game. That wasn't supposed to happen. Oh, that is perfectly fine. This is why we created those outlines, so that it could sense the outlines and then go opposite to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an if statement, and we're going to use a sensing block. In control, we're going to grab the fourth block, which is if something, then something, and we're going to place it in our forever loop. We are now going to go to sensing, and we're going to grab color touching color. Now this has blue of the ball, I guess, and black of the outline. What we're going to do actually looks more greenish. We're going to change this color to the black outline of my ball. Remember, we're in the smaller blue ball right now, so we're going to start with that. So if this black is touching the other black. The other way you could do this is really neat, but a little bit more complicated for some newbies, is this feature. So you click on the dropper feature, highlights the game, and you can click on the other ball's outline. Again, this is a little more difficult because if you go a few more pixels out, you'll change the color and the grading and the shading, right? So I'm going to be at the very center of that black outline where you have just full black. Click it, and you should have 0, 0, 0. You don't have to do that. You could just drag them to 0, 0, and 0. So if the color black is touching color black, then do something, right? What do we want it to do? We want it to have the opposite effect of gravity. So when so similar to like how if you had a pen and you dropped it, it would just hit the floor. But if you had it drop on a table, the table would would support it, right? It would make it drop on that table. So same thing with this ball situation. We're going to change the direction that it moves, or now that it's not going to move, we're going to make it change y by positive 10. Let's see how that works. So now our ball is not going down, and if I move it around, it's not moving at all, but at least I know that my two black outlines are making it not go down anymore. Whereas when we didn't have that, it would just go right through the ball. So this is working. Excellent. The next part that we want to look at is our roll factor, right? So when a ball hits something round, two round things hit each other, they're going to start rotating, right? And they might go in opposite directions or whatnot. So because I don't want to recode like turning 15 degrees left and turning 15 degrees right, that's what I use the roll for. We are going to turn roll degrees, basically. What we're going to do is we're going to go to motion, and we're going to scroll up and grab our rotating blocks. And you're going to grab the one that is going clockwise, so turning this degrees. And it says 15, but I don't want it to always be turning 15 degrees in one direction. I want it to change depending on the way this ball is behaving, right? So we're going to turn roll degrees, not 10 degrees. We're going to grab this roll button from variables, and we're going to put it right here. Again, it fits really nicely because they're both the same shape. So again, what did I do? I went to variables, grabbed the roll variable, plugged it into turn clockwise roll degrees. Let's click the green flag. And because of the effects of a shaded area and a bright area, you can actually tell that it's turning. And when I click the left arrow, it turns a different way. And click the right arrow, it starts to turn the other way. Okay? Beautiful. So the last thing we want to do is that we actually want this ball to move out of its space. It's just staying in one spot. So you guessed it, we're going to go to motion, and we're going to change X by. We're going to change not X by 10, not X by 12, but X by roll. So we're going to grab motion. Again, we're going to grab change X by, plug it underneath turn clockwise roll degrees, and then our forever loop within the if statement. And we're going to grab our variable roll once more and plug it in here. So let's test this out. Click the green flag. Oh, check that out. It's working. There is a slight little glitch, you'll notice, right? Like it just kind of went through my ball there, but other than that, it's working. So we can work on those glitches. A lot of times, developers will create a software and then they'll say it's functional and you can take it. But they're not going to like test out every single thing that could go wrong with it, right? Because then the project would never be finished. So they'll give it to the user, and the user will test it on, and they'll find all the bugs and any issues they have and bring it back to the developer. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We're figuring out our own problems first, and then when other people play it, we can share ideas and share solutions. So we're going to click on control, and we're going to grab this if loop, if statement, and we're going to put it underneath the other if one, but within the forever loop. If blank, then do something, right? So if there's one really important thing that we didn't do, right? Before we even get to the glitch is to figure out if we won the game. Like if I'm touching the ball with my green stick, nothing happened. What we're going to do is we're going to grab sensing. And we are going to compare two colors. We're going to compare the color of the stick and the color of the outline of my ball. So obviously because we're in the small ball zone, oh, can we grab that small ball? We're going to compare the small ball's black outline first. So we can change all these to 0, 0, 0. And then for this one, we're going to use the dropper tool and we're going to scan above this green highlight. Click, and you got your green and your black. And now it's going to compare the black outline to the green. If those two things touch, then what should happen? Well, you won the game essentially. So it should say you win. And how should it say that? We can go to looks and we can say hello for 2 seconds, except instead of saying hello, we'll say you win or congratulations or you got me or whatever it is that you would like to make this. Again, this is your code, full freedom and creativity. The other thing you can do if you wanted to make it more pizzazz is you could like change the color effect to show that the person touched the ball. And change color effect by 25. What does that even do? Let's see. Playing the game. Oh, missed it. Let's try again. And it changes to like a darker purple. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Let's see. And then it changed the color. It said you win, and then it changed the color. So that's totally up to you if you'd like to do that. You can add other things. You can add sound whenever the person wins. Totally up to you. But we're not done yet because you are noticing a slight glitch where this ball goes through my big circle. That doesn't happen in the real world. It shouldn't happen in the game. So we're going to grab our control, another if statement, and we're going to place it under this if statement. And this time we're going to sense the color difference between the inside of the small ball and the inside of the big ball. So we're going to go to sensing and we're going to grab if color touching something, right? So if the color of my blue ball, which again, it has varying degrees, right? This is a little bit of the complication with this kind of effect is that you'll have a lighter color and a shady side. So just bring it to the exact center because that's the average. If this color is touching, if I put the very center of this one, because of the effects of this, this is completely yellow, right? That doesn't represent the exterior. So I'm just going to do something between this and this. So like a very average color here. So if the blue is touching the more red side, the red color, then something should happen, right? Then we need to create we need to like double do the effect of counter gravity. So when we changed it to y, to change y by 10, we're going to do that again. You'll go into motions and you're going to grab change y by 10. Where is that? Let's see. Go to glide. Oh, there we go. Change y by positive 10. And now let's see what happens. You can notice it has a little bit more bouncing effect, right? And, oh, I don't know why it keeps saying you win, though. That's not supposed to happen. Click the green flag, it's centered. It's going to fall, and I'm going to touch it. And now it says you win. Perfect. And, oh. Okay. The other thing we can do to change the way it's making a little bit of an after effect is to use the stop all button. So if you go to control, you can grab stop all right after you win. So then it's going to end the game properly. If I touch it, oh, I missed it. Never mind. If I touch it, you win happens, and then it just stops the game. Then I'll have to re-click the green flag, which should recenter it. And then when we play the game, if I go too fast, I might miss the ball. If I go too slow, I might miss the ball. things like that. You can make the game more challenging by making it smaller, making the certain features smaller and bigger. So let's try that. Instead of making the size 100 here. Oh, this is for the small ball. Never mind. Let's keep the size 100 for the small ball. For the big ball, however, let's make the size 250. So that's way smaller than it is right now. Okay, now let's see how that works. So yeah, you can change the sizes proportionally because you do want them to not be too easy of a game to play. And I think it's a little bit too easy. So we're going to click on costumes and I'm just going to make this part smaller. Oh, no, not like that. Inwards. So the smaller it is, the more difficult the game becomes. All right, so yeah, this is the general makeup of the game. You can now work and change it, add sound, and add variety to it however you like. I'm just going to double check that this is everything on the code. And yeah, it looks like it is. So yes, this is the end of the code for today. I hope you guys enjoyed Touch the Red. It's one of my favorite games. And I hope to see you soon next Sunday. Bye-bye.